Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, no doubt, continues now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for July the 10th in the year of our Lord 2025. This is Hour 2 of 2, and the goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, to use the checks and balances brilliantly put in place by our founding fathers to restore the republic. Yes, indeed, we use the supreme law of the land to get that done. These checks and balances are one of the peaceful, restorative solutions we have at our fingertips. As you know, we prefer restoration. We don't want revolution. We reject revolution unless it's a Jesus revolution. Then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Newman, dear friend, well-known journalist. What is he? He's a journalist. He's a videographer. He's a on-air newsman. He's a talk show host. Most importantly, he's a father and a husband. Welcome back, brother.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me, brother.
All right. I mentioned to Alex right before the pause, hey, I made the top 100 list of talkers. They call it the Heavy 100, talkers.com. I made that list of the Heavy 100 yesterday. Great news for me. And then Alex brings up this cool piece of news he's got. Alex?
Well, thank you, Sam. What a nice little celebration there. Congratulations to you. You definitely deserve it. I hope you'll be in the top 10 next year. But we just found out yesterday we were in the list of top 100 political newsletters. And we've got some good company and some bad company. So that was exciting. We found that out yesterday. And we'll probably be announcing something publicly over the next week or so. But this is the first time we've said it publicly because we just found out yesterday. But very good place to be, and people can sign up for that for free. If you go to libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org, you can sign up for it for free. And we've got lots of good stuff we're putting out there. So
now let me make this clear so people understand. Since Alex is such a prolific journalist and writer, he writes for all kinds of people, the New American, he writes at the Epoch Times, he's everywhere. But when we talk about he made the top 100 Substack political newsletters, we're talking about his personal organization. We're not talking about just people that he writes for that are huge. We're talking about the Liberty Sentinel, which is just clearly you, right?
Yes, me and my little staff, yep.
Yeah, and when I say just you, what I mean by that is there's no corporate money. It's kind of like me as a talk show host. Oh, yeah, by all means, I got a few people around me that help and everything else. But, hey, it's just my deal. It's not some other corporation or syndication or this or that. Or it's just, hey, the Alex hard work paying off. Because I know this.
That's right.
I mean, you've never had just a big old bunch of money poured in. That's when I look at this top 100 talk show host list, man, most of those people on there, man, have big bucks behind them. And I've just had to get there by hook and by hard knocks and everything else. Really, the same is true for you, is why I'm spending time on this.
That's absolutely true, yep. So praise the Lord.
All right. Love that news. Great effort, great work on that, etc. Now, I want to kind of highlight the book you wrote because I think it relates to the topic at hand that I want to focus on relating to school children. All right. Indoctrinating Our Children to Death. Government, schools, war on faith, family, and freedom, and how to stop it. LibertySentinel.org is where you can learn about that. Tell me a little bit about the book, and then we'll dovetail that into the topic at hand today, sir.
Well, thank you, Sam. So this was a labor of love. As you know, education is my passion. I believe it's the most important subject. And what I noticed was there was a few really serious misconceptions about the problem that needed to be rectified if we were ever going to make progress toward a solution. And misconception number one is that the system is broken. People think, somewhere along the line the system got hijacked by evildoers, and now that's the problem. If we could just go back to the good old days of, and depending on who you talk to, the 1980s, 1960s, 1940s, then everything will be fine. And that's a huge misconception. The system was designed and built by evildoers who always intended to use it as a means to an end, the end being the destruction of our constitutional republic, the destruction of the Christian faith, and that's very easy to prove. So that's why I did the book. The second thing was just the idea of education, like some of the key things. Who should be in charge of education? Well, the Bible says that's a parental responsibility, not a government responsibility. So how did we get here? Well, we've got the whole history of that in the book. And then finally, the purpose of education. There's so much confusion around this topic, even in Christian schools, even in the homeschooling community. Why are we educating? What is the purpose of this? And the world's got a very perverse vision of the purpose of education. But if you go back to American history, back before the government took over education, this was very clear to everybody why we educate. We educate for the same reason that the Presbyterians said we exist, right? What is the chief of man? Well, to glorify God and enjoy him forever. So that's the primary purpose of education. I love the way Classical Conversations puts it. The purpose of education is to know God and make him known. And as Jesus says, you seek first the kingdom of God, and the other stuff, your food, your water, your reading, your math, that'll all be added unto you. So those are the reasons we wrote the book, and we did not expect the kind of response we received, Sam. It's been endorsed by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. It's been endorsed by Alex Jones, been endorsed by Glenn Beck, by Roger Stone, by Dr. Peter McCullough. I mean, you name it.
And verbally and so by Sam Bushman and Liberty RoundTable Live.
And that's a huge one right there. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Sam. And so it's really just the history of how the government came to take over education, how the UN is now hijacking that architecture, and why liberty and civilization depend on us crushing this system and restoring legitimate education, and very quickly.
All right. The UN is a big concern. There's no question about it. But you know what? The United States is of great concern, too. And the big, beautiful bill, a lot of people are saying it was incredible. I'm 100% against it. I think there was some good things in it. Don't misunderstand me. But it's 900 plus pages, and I would wager that not a single person read it. None of the 100 senators, none of the 435 members of the House, and the president, I doubt any of them actually read the complete bill. It's literally 3+ novels long. How many pages is your book, Alex, to make the point?
A lot less than that. It's less than 300 pages, including the massive bibliography and the index. So,
all right, so it's triple your book, or probably quadruple, based on how you want to look at it. And I don't believe a single person read it, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
All right, so I bring that up to say, in the big, beautiful bill, there's a federal school choice, I don't know what you want to call it, law passed now, right?
Yes. Yeah, it was originally introduced as a single bill, and it was rolled up into this big, huge, abominable monstrosity.
Because it probably wouldn't pass as a single bill, would it?
Precisely. Precisely.
Okay, keep going.
So this provision, and this is just one of the many poison pills. I loved what you said, Sam. There are some good things in there, but there's good things in rat poison. That's why the rats eat it. But it's the poison that kills them. And so one of the ones that I have narrowed in on is this school choice provision. And full disclosure, I'm a huge supporter of actual school choice. I believe all parents should have a choice of how to educate their children. Do they want to do homeschooling, Christian school, private school, boarding school? Unschool. Yeah, I'm a huge supporter of actual school choice. I am not a supporter of government-funded, government-controlled fake education, which is what this bill is going to promote. And so the quick rundown on it, the version that passed the House would have created a national system whereby every state would have to set up what they call scholarship granting organizations, SGOs, and then you could donate money as a taxpayer to these SGOs and get a write-off on your taxes for it. So it was a tax credit. And what would happen then is private schools could participate in this program if they met the government's criteria. But even in the version, there was some language in the House version that said nothing in this should be construed to allow the government to regulate or control private schools, and also it applied to homeschoolers. But right after that, they tell you on page 716 and 717 of the version that passed the House, but if you take this money, you have to obey XYZ federal statutes, including what's called IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act.
Yeah, the stick and the carrot come to mind here, Alex.
It's exactly, and it's the camel's nose under the tent, right? Once they get you to obey these federal statutes, well, why shouldn't you have to obey other federal statutes? That's not fair. Government schools have to obey those that take federal money, but your private school doesn't. So what the House version would have done is forced all these private schools to obey IDEA, which would have imposed on them massive new costs, which would have opened the door to federally controlled, quote-unquote, mental health programs, which would have opened the door to Medicaid and big pharma control of our students. So that was bad enough. Now, it went over to the U.S. Senate, and the senators took out the provision that said that nothing in this should be construed to allow the government to regulate or control your private schools. So that's no longer in there. So, of course, what is that going to mean? Well, it means they're going to interpret that as, hey, we can now regulate and control private schools. So that's the big danger. You know, I of course, I want more kids out of the government schools.
Hold on, Alex. The secret here, though, is don't take the money, right?
Of course. But what's going to happen, Sam, is that it's going to become very, very difficult for Christian schools and private schools to compete in a market where all of your competitors are taking free, quote-unquote, money. It's like the cheese in the mousetrap. Everybody's going to want to take it, and the ones that resist are going to find it increasingly difficult to operate because parents will look and they'll say, here's a Christian school where I'll have to pay the whole tuition, and here's another Christian school right on the other side of the block where I can basically send my children for, quote-unquote, free. What am I going to choose? And at least initially, there's not going to seem to be much of a difference between the two schools. But what's going to happen, Sam, is exactly what we saw happen with hospitals over the last 50 or 60 years, right? Every Catholic hospital, every Presbyterian hospital, every Jewish hospital, every Baptist hospital, they say, oh, yeah, Medicare, Medicaid. You know, if it ever gets too bad, if they ever tell us we have to kill babies, we'll just stop taking the money. And, of course, what happened during COVID? Well, they said, hey, if you're taking the federal money, everybody's got to get the injection. Everybody's got to give the run near. Everybody's going to get – so anyways, long story short, all the hospitals now basically became federal hospitals. That's what's going to happen with our private schools, Sam, and very, very, very dangerous, and I hope people are paying attention to this.
So the headline, if you want to go to Alex Newman's incredible newsletter, libertysentinel.org is where you go. But the headline is New Federal School Choice Program Sparks Concern. That's a mild headline for what's happening. I would write basically tyrannical thugocracy deceives the people in Big Beautiful Bill and creates tyrannical thugocracy takeover of your children's minds. I mean, really, that's what's going on, right?
That's exactly what's going on, Sam, and I think that language is entirely appropriate. A lot of people will push back on us and say, "Oh, you're being alarmist," or we've got plenty of time until that comes. Look, I've got the UN document from UNESCO. It's a 2022 General Education Monitoring Report where they specifically say we've got to get control of all these non-state education providers. We need them to take our tests. We need them to use our standards. We need them to use our curricula. We need to have the non-discrimination in admissions and hiring. So they're saying we have a problem. There are schools that don't obey us. The solution is very clear. Give them government money. So it's not going to happen overnight, Sam. It's not. It'll be a years-long process. But I watched it happen in Sweden. We watched it happen in South Africa. We watched it happen in Australia. We watched it happen in Canada. That is the direction this is moving, and people need to understand that. And you know what's worse, Sam? They're planning to actually make this worse. I had Senator Tommy Tuberville represents Alabama in the U.S. Senate on my show yesterday, and he said we're now starting the Big Beautiful Bill number 2, and then there's going to be a Big Beautiful Bill number 3. And they're saying they're going to keep expanding this. They're going to force it down the throats of every state, whether they want it or not. So over the next few years, I guarantee you this is going to be used to take over private schools. And I don't think that's what Trump wants. I don't think that's his agenda. But best case scenario, he'll be the president for another 3.5 years. We'll end up with another deep state Democrat puppet in 2029 or 2033. And as soon as he or she or they or it or whatever is sworn in, they will say, hey, look at all this money we're giving to all these private schools. They're teaching people that there's something wrong with chopping off children's private parts so they can be their true selves. We need a federal control here. And it's coming, Sam. It's coming.
Well, and the problem with this that I see is they're moving towards a digital currency very quietly in the background. So pretty soon might it be, hey, you don't take government school money and your credit rating goes down and therefore, hey, you were on the show with Sam Bushman the other day. So, Alex, I'm sorry, your money just doesn't equate what other people's money is worth because, buddy, you're kind of dangerous. I mean, you're teaching your kids yourself. You were on the Sam Bushman show. And with digital currency, they'll be able to just simply change your reality in an instant, and there'll be nothing you can do about it. That comes directly from the Chinese leadership, right?
You are exactly right, Sam. And they're building the infrastructure for this right now under the Trump administration with the real IDs, with giving Palantir access to all of our data. They're building out the social credit score. And I'll tell you what, the UN, I just did a big article on this in the New American. The UN just sent one of their minions over here, a Pakistani feminist wackadoodle, who investigated our education system. And she concluded that our education system is not in line with our quote-unquote obligations under quote-unquote international human rights law, and that, the federal government's going to have to step in and force some changes here. I encourage people to read not just my article about it, but read the report that this UN Looney Tunes wrote. It's very clear that the UN is unhappy with our system, that we're in violation of their international human rights mechanisms, and the digital currency is going to be the control mechanism to force compliance, obviously not just in education, but certainly there and elsewhere.
How close are we, Alex, to really a digital currency? I mean, I know people are like, oh, that's so far off, Sam. That's just something they're talking about, or that's a dream thing. I don't think so. I think they've been really working behind the scenes to make this a reality, and I don't think people really realize how far along it is.
Sam, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we are essentially there already. The overwhelming super majority of all the currency, all the exchange that happens in the United States is already digital. A lot of the aspects of digital currency that people are so concerned about are already in place, right? When the federal government gives you your food stamps or whatever, those are programmable. You can't go and buy whatever the federal government says you can't buy with those things. So we've already got digital programmable money issued by the Federal Reserve and the federal government, already being used to manipulate our choices. Now, Donald Trump did issue a great executive order forbidding central bank digital currency for now. In my state of Florida, for example, we passed a law banning central bank digital currency. But what they're doing is they're just essentially turning the quote-unquote private digital currencies into de facto central bank digital currencies. I mean, if you look at the Stable Act and the Genius Act that are going through Congress right now, one of them just passed through the Senate. These are essentially de facto central bank digital currencies, even though they're not officially, and they have all the same attributes, right? With the KYC, the Know Your Customer, they know every person who's purchasing, selling, trading these digital currencies. It accomplishes everything that our overlords want. So we're not like moving in that direction. We're practically there. They just haven't tightened the screws down yet.
And the reality in my mind is this too, whether it be the CIA or who knows where that goes. But they're building back doors into a lot of this stuff too. For any of these digital currencies to become legitimized, there's going to be back doors and ways because when people move money around, they're going to basically claim because of terrorism, because of bad actors around the world, they've got to have the ability to deal with, control, lock down this. If they don't, they completely lose. So that's in the mix too, right?
Absolutely. And I think we're going to see, Sam, in the next few years here, the beginnings of what these evil-doing globalist megalomaniacs call the polycrisis, right? The polycrisis of doom. We'll see international conflicts, if not world war. We'll see more pandemics. We'll see cyber pandemics where they shut down parts of our communications and our power grids. We'll see, all kinds of and I think the economic crisis will be a critical component of bringing in the central bank digital currency. If you look at what investment banker David Webb has revealed with the Great Taking, they've already got the legal architecture in place to seize all of our securities, all of our stocks, all of our bonds, basically any of the assets that you think you own. And so, you have a severe currency crisis, a severe collapse of the markets, the banks go under, and suddenly your friendly political leaders come on TV and say, don't panic, citizens, which is code for absolutely panic. We want you as terrified as possible. Don't panic. We've got this under control. We're working on a solution. You need to download this app onto your little surveillance device, and then you can get back to your regularly scheduled shopping. We'll loan you a few units of this digital currency, and presto, the trap is closed. So people
we'll
need
give
to
you
be
a big, beautiful check, won't we, Alex?
That's right, a digital check, right? It'll be loaded onto your surveillance device, masquerading as a smartphone. So
now, just so you know, folks, banks already don't need your permission to seize your deposits. Understand that reality check as well. Now, there's something I want to bring up to you that I find really interesting, and I think Donald Trump. I'm a self-appointed Donald Trump advisor, Alex.
Good.
I don't know if you knew that, but
I did.
There you go.
But you should.
I think you've got the wrong people whispering in his ear on many things is my concern. But anyway, I don't know if you realize this, but July 10th today, but 1832, Andrew Jackson goes to war with the banks. This day of history had the details for this, but he vetoed legislation to charter the second bank of the United States. He shut it down, and he went to war, and everybody got mad, and his Treasury Secretary basically moved the money, and the senators freaked. Everybody melted down. A couple of secretaries didn't want to do it, so he fired them. On the third one, the guy finally did it, and it just showed that he has the right to fire people. It shows that he has Anyway, Donald Trump needs to basically shut down the Federal Reserve now, and he needs to shut down the digital banking system now. History repeats itself, and hey, Andrew Jackson was very popular over this. That was what he singularly ran on for the most part, and he won and did so well. Could we repeat history? Can Donald stand up and do that?
I would love to see that. And, he has given hints in the past, Sam, that he's inclined to do something like that. He's talked very positively about gold. He's talked about how the Federal Reserve is ripping off the American people by stealing our purchasing power, by printing money. He's been very vocal about those things. And during his first term, he tried to appoint Judy Shelton to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. And she was a gold bug and an advocate of basically dismantling this usurious system. But then you look at Scott Bessent, the globalist, homosexual, Council on Foreign Relations member, Soros minion, who he put in charge of the U.S. Treasury, and kind of deflates your hopes, doesn't it?
It does, but I'm just telling you right now, since I'm the self-appointed Donald Trump advisor, listen up, President Trump. Please listen to me carefully. Andrew Jackson rock and rolled on this, okay? In 1832, he literally vetoed and shut down the central bank from Congress, and people got all mad and said, you can't do that. You got to let the courts interpret the Constitution. And Andrew Jackson said, no, I don't. I swore an oath to it, and therefore I have the right to interpret it for my branch of government, and I'm telling you, I'm in charge, and this is gone. And they got so angry at him, but they had no recourse because he was spot on, correct, constitutionally speaking. Hey, they tried to pass a bill, and he simply said, I will not sign it. I'm shutting it down. I'm going to veto this thing. Donald, take a page out of history's print for or blue book for solutions, whatever you want to call it. I mean, get this done and do it yesterday. Forget debating if you're going to fire the clown at the head of the Federal Reserve. Just shut that sucker down and move us to honest constitutional currency. Yeah, I mean, eventually gold and silver, but in the meantime, you could at least go to states notes, which means we're not paying interest to some clown banking cartel thugocracy. I mean, you could do it now. Donald, let's go, buddy. I mean, it would cement him in history beyond Andrew Jackson. Alex?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Sam. I agree with you 100%. And, there are hints that Trump understands these things, and I agree with you 100%. That would be the ideal solution. Bring in some people like Ron Paul and Rand Paul and maybe Tom DiLorenzo over at the Mises Institute. Bring in some of these great economists who've spent a lot of time thinking about this and come up with a plan. Because what would happen if Donald Trump came out and announced he was doing that is the globalists would crash the market. They would crash the dollar. So this has got to be done carefully and intelligently. But frankly, I don't think freedom is going to survive if we don't address the two problems that we've been talking about, Sam, the usurious, fraudulent financial system and the indoctrination and the sexualization and the dumbing down of our children through the education system made possible by this fraudulent financial system. So those are the two issues that more than any other, in my opinion, have to be tackled urgently. So I'm glad you are now advising Donald Trump, and I encourage the listeners to give the White House a call and call your member of Congress. Let them know that Trump's advisor, Sam Bushman, has some very important advice, and we've got to orchestrate this.
And you can become a self-appointed Trump advisor too, ladies and gentlemen. All you got to do is say, I'm in charge, and that's what I've chosen. I identify as a Donald Trump appointed advisor. I appointed myself. That's what's going on. All right, Alex Newman, my friend, congratulations on your incredible newsletter and the waves that it's making. Alex Newman, libertysentinel.org, made one of Substack's top newsletters in politics. I dig it. Thank you, brother. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, brother.
There he goes, man. He does a phenomenal job everywhere he goes. He writes for everybody and their dog, and he appears on Liberty RoundTable. How do you like that? All right, hang tight. We got a whole lot more in seconds. You are listening to the one and only hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. That is Liberty RoundTable Live.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. Search crews and volunteers in Texas are still looking for the more than 160 people still believed to be missing from the July 4th flash floods. The death toll has risen to at least 120. Andrews County Assistant Fire Marshal Jeremy Prophet says North American neighbors are helping in the search for flood victims.
We have crews from Mexico here. We have crews from Canada that have come in and are assisting us. And every week it'll be cycling through. Every day we see cycles of different departments coming in.
Trash pickup in Philadelphia should be resuming next week after the city and the workers' union reached a tentative agreement. More than 10,000 workers went on strike last week. More bloodshed in Ukraine as Russia's military continues to bombard the Ukrainian capital.
The sound of a Russian missile pelting towards Kyiv was caught on camera by an AP reporter. Russia pounded Ukraine's capital with another major missile and drone attack overnight into Thursday. The strikes caused fires in areas across the city, killing 2 people a day after the heaviest aerial attack of the 3-year war so far. I'm Karen Shamaz.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. and Russia have exchanged new ideas for Ukraine peace talks after he met with his Russian counterpart in Malaysia earlier today. He said they discussed a new and different approach, although he did not elaborate. Rubio said President Trump has been increasingly frustrated with Russia's Vladimir Putin. Last week, the Pentagon paused the delivery of some weapons to Ukraine. But now President Trump has directed the resumption of sending military assistance. Officials say the White House was caught off guard. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my 2 sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-226-5454. That's 800-226-5454. 800-226-5454.
As a parent, is receiving a faith-based, character-focused education for your children difficult to find? Do you believe that godly principles should be a central component in your child's education? Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character. For over 40 years, American Heritage School has been educating both hearts and minds, bringing out academic excellence. This is the school where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. With American Heritage School's advanced distance education program, distance is no longer an issue. With an accredited LDS-oriented curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade, your children can attend from anywhere in the world. American Heritage School will prepare your child for more than a job. It will prepare them for life. To learn more, visit american-heritage.org. That's american-heritage.org.
Experience the untamed spirit of the American West with Range Magazine. Each issue is a visual journey featuring award-winning photography and compelling stories that capture the heart of ranching and rural life. Stay informed on the challenges and triumphs of those who live and work on the land. Subscribe today and receive quarterly editions delivered to your doorstep, and join a community that cherishes the enduring legacy of the Western frontier. Visit rangemagazine.com to subscribe.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right, we're delighted that I made the top 100 talk show hosts in the nation list, and we're even more delighted that Alex Newman's LibertySentinel.org Substack newsletter made one of Substack's best in politics. I dig it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, just good news. The new media taking center stage, baby. You won't be able to stop it now. Too many people know the truth, right? All right. I just decided, and here's the headline to my new. I got so many roles, right? I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a talk show host. I'm a video commentator. I got all these different roles in my life. It's great. I'm an IT professional. And now, added to my prestigious list of accomplishments, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Bushman proclaims himself Trump advisor, asserts identity in new role. Yeah, I just made myself a Trump advisor. I said so. I appointed myself. And after all, I voted for him. And I didn't vote for him, actually, but he's my president, right? And so I'm his advisor. He works for me. Donald, did you know that you worked for me, buddy? And all my fellow Americans? Just saying. And so I assert myself as his advisor, okay? And I identify with that. I identify as a Trump advisor. So if I identify that way, I'm just asserting my new role, right? I can appoint myself and identify that way if I want to. And, who's to say I can't? Especially if he works for me, for crying out loud. Yeah, I assert my identity in my new role, ladies and gentlemen. So, see, I'm just getting more prestigious by the second, Liz. What do you think of that? Oh, this is just great. I'm having a great time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got a bunch of news the networks refuse to use for you. Here it is. Stacey Abrams, in my humble opinion, she's the whacked-out communist from Georgia that tried to run, and it was a dismal failure. Everything she's done has been a dismal failure, but somehow, like Kamala Harris, she keeps a-rolling. Stacey Abrams jumps on the scene and says she claims Trump will turn the U.S. into an autocracy. What's an autocracy? It just means like a dictator, or there's different terms for it, but a dictator, a monarch. There's different kind of flavors, so it's hard to know exactly what she means. And Stacey, not on my watch. I'm a Trump advisor, and so I'm telling you right now, I'm advising Trump not to go down that road. I'm advising him to appeal to the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, to use the checks and balances that made America great in the first place to restore the republic, reject revolution. And so, there's a lot really going on there that I think, so I appreciate that she says that. But you've heard from the Democrats that the sky is falling for quite some time, right? That's what they literally always say. Oh my gosh, everything is melting down. This is horrible. Okay? Trump is not going to turn us into an autocracy. He's not a dictator. Okay? He never has been. I think he needs to get a little bit more in your face when it comes to defending the Constitution than he already is. Not less. So I'm just telling you right now, that's critical. Now, this is interesting. Biden's doctor, what's that clown's name? What's this guy's name? Shoot. Dr. Kevin O'Connor. Right? He's the guy that had to go ahead and testify before Congress, and he tried to delay it, and they said no. Now it turns out that he just pled the fifth. Yeah. He was supposed to testify before Congress. He just literally melted down. It's just crazy. Yeah. It's really weird. Why would he plead the fifth? I just don't understand. Why would the former physician plead the Fifth Amendment in a, quote, closed door congressional deposition on Wednesday as part of a, quote, GOP investigation into Biden's mental acuity while in office? Why would he do that? I don't understand why Kevin O'Connor would do that. He folded like a cheap suit, some say. Wow. So Stacey Abrams is telling you that, hey, Trump's going to go ahead and turn us into an autocracy. I don't agree with that one bit. But what is former President Joe Biden's personal physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, why is he pleading the fifth? I mean, they asked him some questions, as far as I understand, like, hey, did people tell you to lie about the, I'm trying to think of the words, the president's wherewithal? I don't have the words exactly because, remember, it was a closed door hearing. And that's my other kind of concern with the Republicans and the Democrats and the inside deep state people. Okay? Why are they always doing closed door meetings? Do you really need to just do it? I don't know what to say. Do you really need to have it closed door meetings all the time? Well, Sam, if we do a closed door meeting, Kevin O'Connor might tell the truth. No, he just pled the fifth and said, blank you. Okay? It's insane. And I don't know where we go with this, because I just got an email, and this is fascinating. You know, they always say, Trump, you can't do that. How dare you? You're taking power unto yourself and everything else. And so all these judges, appellate judges and local judges and whatever you want to call it, they're all basically trying to stop Donald in his tracks. You can't do this. You can't do that. We're going to stop you from this. We're going to stop you from that. Well, then the Supreme Court says, no, you can't stop Donald from doing all those things. He's the president. You only have regional jurisdiction, not nationwide jurisdiction. You can't do that. The Supreme Court says no. Well, now I just got a headline from Matthew Staver, my dear friend. He's a well-known attorney out of Florida, Liberty Counsel, LC.org. And the headline says, judges ignore SCOTUS. A court rules you must fund Planned Parenthood no matter what the law or the Supreme Court says. What? Yeah. Liberty Counsel saying we're going to fight this. Good for them. Planned Parenthood got a judge to enter a, quote, temporary restraining order against the big, beautiful bill. The lawsuit's frivolous, has no legal basis, but the judge blocked the bill that defunds abortion. This is outrageous and must not stand. You think? Wow. I'm shocked because I don't even know how to respond to this. They're literally just flat out defying the Supreme Court right now. And I commend Liberty Counsel. I mean, I really commend them for their leadership here. Liberty Counsel doing a phenomenal job. But how do they just do this? These judges that are, oh my gosh, how dare Donald do this, right? Right? Judges ignore SCOTUS. Wow. I don't know how to respond to it. Because to me, it's so off the charts. They act like, oh, Donald can't do this, Donald can't do that. But then even when the court slaps them down, right? Even when the Supreme Court slaps them down, these judges don't care. Judges ignore SCOTUS. Wow. It's hard for me to know how to respond to this news because it's so blatantly in your face wrong. Now you say, Sam, the president can ignore the Supreme Court. The Congress can ignore the Supreme Court if they choose to. Yeah, they can. But the lower level judges can't ignore the Supreme Court, can they? And that's really where the rub is. You must fund Planned Parenthood no matter what the law or the Supreme Court says. I'm grateful Liberty Counsel is preparing their briefs for the next round of court hearings on this case because, man, this has got to stop. I don't even know how to respond to this. It's crazy. But what do you expect, folks? That's what these guys do, right? They say, help us fund this fight. Amen. Anyway, all right. I got a whole lot more news the networks refuse to use for you coming up. Final segment. I want to talk about rain. Yeah. How about cloud seeding? How about weather warfare? How about weather manipulation? Oh, that's nothing but whacked out conspiracy stuff. Uh-huh. We're going to talk about it in seconds on your radio.
Scott Bradley here. Most Americans are painfully aware that the nation is on the wrong track and in dire straits. Unfortunately, most political pundits only nibble around the edges when they claim to address the issues. Even worse, many of the so-called solutions are simply rewarmed servings of what got us into the mess we currently face. And the politicians think we're so gullible and naive that we'll buy their lies that they have reformed and now understand where they led us astray. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that they simply wish to continue to hold power. The solution to America's challenges is found in returning to the timeless principles found in the United States Constitution. My book and lecture series will reawaken in Americans an understanding and love of the principles which made this nation the freest, most prosperous, happiest, and most respected nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com and order my book and lectures to begin the restoration of this great nation.
This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com. Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So much to cover, so little time. It's just crazy how much news there is out there. And, you know, you want to focus on all of it. It's impossible in a single radio show, 2 hours long, or no matter how long it is, to focus on all of it. It's just impossible because there's so much going on in the country. I believe a lot of that is by design, to try to just overwhelm us with things, with so much news. Too much news. You can't, you know, whatever. So, but I want to bring up a couple of other stories that I find fascinating. Did Rainmaker's cloud seeding operation exacerbate the massive rainfall in Texas? That's a real question. So I don't know if you know, but there's a company called Rainmaker, and they did some cloud seeding just a couple of days before this massive, devastating, fatal for many rainfall in Texas. And scientists, atmospheric scientists, say it's impossible. They say cloud seeding, in which planes scatter what they call dust particles through clouds to trigger rain and snow, well, it remains a fledgling technology, they say, the effect of which are too limited and localized to have produced anything remotely like the 15 inches of rain that drowned swaths of south central Texas over the 4th of July weekend, okay? Now, I bring this up because here's what's fascinating to me. They spend millions of dollars on cloud seeding all over the country. And they, for years, have said it's a technology that has real value. It blesses farmers. It makes it rain where they want to. So much so that this company that was involved in this is called Rainmaker. That's the name of the company because they believe they can make it rain. Now, what's interesting is they said make it rain 2 days before, and they flew planes up and cloud seeded, and then it rained like crazy. Then they said, well, we can't be responsible for that, even though we're called rainmakers. We couldn't have made that much rain. That's not possible. And my response is, you don't know that. You don't know that. And let me explain how I know scientists don't know that. They say that's impossible, atmospheric scientists say. But what if they haven't researched this enough? And under normal conditions or drought conditions or whatever, then, hey, the cloud seeding makes a little bit of difference, but doesn't really matter that much. They want to marginalize this when they have a catastrophe like this. They want to say they didn't play a big role, and they know they didn't. But why do they keep doing it if it doesn't make a difference? Because they know that it does. That's why. Secondarily, how do you know that this wasn't an experiment that went wrong, where this isn't quite normal cloud seeding? This was a unique twist on cloud seeding that, well, maybe their research or maybe their case study, maybe their went crazy. You think they're going to admit it on the back end and go, yeah, Rainmaker, they were experimenting with cloud seeding and they did something unique and weird, a little bit different than, and boy, howdy, did they get the pay dirt. Maybe the technology was fledgling. That's why they couldn't get it done. And, well, now they've made a twist to it. And, boy, howdy, does it bring results now, so much so that holy whatever, this is crazy. How do we know that didn't happen? We don't know. We know they're experimenting on the skies right now, putting all kinds of stuff in there to block the sun, to make rain, to do this, that. At what point does it become weather warfare? At what point do we say you don't have authority to do this? You don't have the right to do that. Quit tampering with the skies. You're going to create a calamity at some point. And they're saying, oh, no, it's impossible. There's nothing we did. But is it coincidental that 2 days before? I don't believe in coincidences. Do you? Now, anytime we bring this up, though, they want to say, oh, Sam, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're a nutcase. This isn't credible. How dare you talk about this on the radio? Sam, you're not credible. You're just a whack job. Okay, but I got a question for you. Remember how we told you there was UFOs? And the government lied and said, no, there's not. You're crazy. And now the government admits blatantly, yes, there are unidentified flying objects. And then we find out even furthermore that with a lot of the unidentified flying objects that they left to conspiracy land for so long, even though they knew the truth that there were unidentified flying objects, now we find out that it was really a cover for even a deeper government program, right? The deeper government program was some technologies that they wanted to test in the skies, but they didn't. So not only were there not UFOs in the traditional sense, they said there wasn't. Well, that's because they knew they're not unidentified to us. We've identified them and we launched them for this program that we're covering up. But we'll call everybody who says there's unidentified flying objects. Now, if there's something in the sky and I see it and I don't know what it is, and I call it an unidentified flying object, it's unidentified to me, so it's accurate, right? But the government says, no, that's bogus. There's no such thing, because they knew what it was and it was identified to them, right? They're the ones that put it up there for a deeper government deception program, which is military technology behind the scenes, et cetera, right? And so now you got to ask your question. Okay, were they lying? No, they were telling the truth. They said it wasn't unidentified. It was not unidentified because it wasn't to them. See, they were telling the truth. The problem is they deceived us and manipulated us. Now, I say that I don't know if Rainmaker's cloud seeding caused this, but I will say this. Is it likely that their involvement had something to do with the extreme rain? Yes. Is it likely that the more we spend time cloud seeding and using things that block the sun and tampering with the climate and the weather, is it likely that our tamperings will have effects that are unknown or unexpected? The answer is clearly a yes, a resounding yes. And is the likelihood of the government reporting to us or leveling with us on this? Are they going to level with us? No, they're going to lie. And 50 years later, we're going to demand accountability. By golly, the new Trump administration equivalent 50 years from now, we need them to come clean. And they'll come partway clean and go, most of this is redacted. But yes, indeed, we did experiment. We did have some unique cloud seeding capability. And boy, howdy, are we the rainmakers now. But don't worry, it was for a good cause. And don't worry, we have control of the technology now to where it doesn't go too extreme. Are they manipulating hurricanes like that too? I don't know, folks, and I'm not here to say the answer is yes. I'm just here to say when they rule it out, oftentimes nothing is official until it's first been denied. I'm just telling you that right now. The old Jerry Hughes, the late Jerry Hughes, my dear friend, taught me that reality check, right? All right, an imposter posing as Secretary of State Marco Rubio reportedly used artificial intelligence or AI to mimic his voice and to write messages in his style sent to foreign officials and senior U.S. officials. That's interesting, right? Deepfake audio and fabricated messages targeted at least 5 high-level figures, 3 foreign ministers, a U.S. governor, and a member of Congress. By SMS texts and by Signal. I don't know why these guys all use Signal. If you think Signal is secure, you've lost your mind. I mean, we saw in court with Stuart Rhodes and everything else that, man, hey, Signal is not as safe as people said it was. Everybody wanted to use Signal, and I said, no, don't use it. You guys are crazy. It won't help you, right? It won't help you. Don't do it. Anyway, so I told everybody don't do it. No one listened to me, but at the end of the day, I was right. It's not secure and it's not safe. In fact, if you want to get technical about it, if you leave your communications unencrypted, it's in the sea of just tons of messages. It's hard for them to isolate them out. They can with keywords, but still, it's in the mass. The second you go to Signal or some encrypted app, what you're really saying is, government, pay attention to this encrypted information. And so now they've got a lot less to go through. And if you think the government can't decrypt it, you've lost your mind. They can, they do, and they will. Anyway, deep fakes are here, baby. And a lot of people believe they're going to replace talk show hosts like us. I don't think so. I don't think AI could come up on the fly saying, I've just decided I'm a self-appointed, self-identified Trump advisor, and now I'm going to start advising the Donald. AI doesn't do that kind of stuff. It's not that creative. It's not that unique. It's not that on the fly. Anyway, there you have it. Just thought I'd bring that to your attention. Final story of the hour. Brit Hume said on Fox News on Tuesday that President Trump and his decision to, quote, reverse course and send weapons to Ukraine stems from his concerns about the political fallout if Russia should win that conflict. Well, like I said, Donald wants to be a peace guy. He talks peace. He ran on peace, which is what Republicans typically do. They run on peace. They get a lot more hawkish once they get elected because hawkish, pro-military industrial complex, military machine people whisper in their ear. So since I'm a self-appointed Trump advisor, I'm telling you, Donald, don't do it, buddy. Back away. You don't want any part of a Russia-Ukraine war. On one hand, you're trying to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, and the headlines all over say, hey, Donald's getting frustrated with Putin. He's losing patience. Well, when you're funding the Ukraine side of the war while you're trying to negotiate, it's not a good sign. You picked sides by backing the Ukraine. No wonder Putin won't come to the table. You're his enemy. Why don't you lay down the sword, buddy, back away and negotiate from a good faith point of view? Not a, I'm going to fund the opposition while I try to pretend I'm going to sit down and have an even discussion with you. Putin's too smart for that, ladies and gentlemen. Like him or dislike him, he's a KGB former agent. The guy's smart as heck. Don't be fooled. If you want peace, have a congruent peace message. Don't fund either side of the war and come to the table with that message of diplomatic peace and solutions. You got to be congruent, Donald. Stand with the Prince of Peace, will you? LovingLiberty.net. God save our republic.